to another edition of Spotlight on Newcastle County, which features all things Newcastle County, Delaware. I'm your host, Melody Kitchen. You never know who we're going to talk to or where we're going to visit. For today's show, we were on location at Rockwood Museum to speak with Museum Director Philip Nord about Rockwood's Spiritualism exhibit that will be on display throughout the summer and into autumn. If you're looking for something different to do on the weekend, I hope you'll stay tuned for this show on Spiritualism exhibit and its influence on Victorian culture. Let's go to that segment now. Hello, today we're here on location with Philip Nord at the beautiful Rockwood Mansion, and we're going to be discussing the Spiritualism exhibit. Thank you so much for having us here today.
It's great to have you here.
Now, to begin, can you tell us a little bit about your role personally here at Rockwood?
My role, I'm the director of the museum, and I've been here since 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most exciting things that I do actually is to do the exhibits. And we have a special exhibit that we're showing called Spiritualism.
Now, these exhibits that you have here at Rockwood, are they free to the public?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Absolutely free.
And anybody can attend, whether you're a Newcastle County resident or,
That's right.
PA, Maryland,
Regardless
anywhere.
of where. Now we do have a small, basically it's a donation to see the whole entire museum.
Sure.
But the exhibit is free.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this summer's exhibit. It's Spiritualism here at Rockwood. Is that correct? Or is it expanded?
Well, what we're doing is, I always like to get something that's actually interesting, and I did a lot of research on trying to come up with something that was popular in the Victorian period.
Absolutely.
And Spiritualism was a hot number. We, in fact, do not have any direct connection to the family doing this. We think that they did. They were wealthy, and it was a pastime, a fun thing that they were doing.
A major fad at the time, so it's very possible that they did. We just can't prove it.
True. Unfortunately, we don't have anything saying that, oh, we had a great time with the Ouija board last night or anything like that. We don't.
Now, this exhibit actually expands throughout the entire bottom floor of the museum, isn't that correct?
It actually does, yes. And we have many of the rooms. There's actually 2 rooms in the museum itself, and some of the additional features are done in some of the other rooms. So sort of the whole museum is all about this. And we do a special program called Morning, and we have a special date where we're going to do this. And we do lots of fun things.
Now, earlier we were discussing the historical basis of why spiritualism became so popular. And essentially it was because so many people were passing so frequently that the living had no way of dealing with it. Or, the grief, they wanted to contact their loved ones after death. So I would imagine that due to, like you said, unfortunately, so many young men passing in the war,
Right.
and also the Spanish flu, like you said, took out so many young people that, this would have really taken hold and been very important and emotional to a lot of people.
Well, it was, but unfortunately, there was a lot of charlatans that took off and said, well, we can make some money by doing this. And spiritualism actually is based on a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people really, or not a lot of people, but there's some people that still believe that there is something to it. Through the years, it actually started with the Fox sisters way back when.
And we should definitely touch on the fact that spiritualism, can you tell us a little bit about some of the forms that spiritualism took? Things like tarot cards, or, because people might not know what spiritualism really is.
Well, there is a definition of spiritualism, and it's actually the process of talking to your relatives, but through a medium,
right.
Through somebody that has special power, special abilities to get through to the spirits and actually talk to your loved ones that have passed away.
And some of the most common forms would have been, Ouija board. True. Or tarot cards, things like that.
Right, crystal ball.
Crystal ball, which everyone knows.
Right.
Yeah.
But actually, a lot the crystal ball and some of these things were actually part-time things that the family did, and when they had a party or something like that, the Ouija board.
Sure, it did become a form of entertainment.
Exactly. And it was never the Ouija board, especially since they've done a lot of films, horror films, saying that all this weird stuff happens if and the Ouija board will be something that
conduit for something it shouldn't be.
Exactly. But no, it was basically, and they sell them today. And they use them for entertainment.
It's a party game. It's children play with it.
That's right.
But essentially, it wasn't. Its intended use was to speak to those who had passed on.
Correct.
And it wasn't intended to be anything evil or bad. It was actually intended to be a way of dealing with grief.
Yes.
That eventually became an entertainment or a party game.
Right.
With practical use.
Right.
Well, let's see some of the other rooms here in the mansion.
Okay, fine.
So here we are, and this is one of the most important rooms here in the exhibit. Can you go ahead and open it up and show us what's inside?
I certainly can. As you heard, it was squeaky. We do that.
A little bit squeaky.
This is Sarah Shipley, and she has passed away. And she was, as we understand, actually laid out here. I'm not so sure about that, but that's sort of what we're telling a lot of people anyway. And right next to her, standing up, is actually not a family member, but actually a neighbor. And when people passed away, we weren't sure if they were in fact dead, so that's where the thing, waiting 3 days to make sure that they suddenly
were deceased before they...
Yeah, very important, obviously.
So Sarah was a member of the family?
Yes, she was. She actually, Sarah Shipley was the niece of Joseph Shipley, who had the place built.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was a key person when the house went up for auction after after Joseph passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped the Bringhurst family purchase at auction the whole house, and so that was sort of the connection
and
there.
she is she's the inspiration for the idea of the exhibit, isn't it correct? This is her mourning?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And we are having a special program in the evening coming up. I can't remember the dates right now,
mm-hmm.
But certainly it'll be in the Happenings magazine if
yeah.
anybody wants to check it out. You probably can't see it really close, but some of the pictures on the fireplace mantel there are turned over.
Mm-hmm.
And that was done to make sure that the spirits didn't take the people in the pictures along with them. There's a number of symbolic things. Also, her feet are positioned to come out through here, mm-hmm. and not to be stuck at the other end of the room. That was important. And we actually keep this door closed because when we've been doing ghost tours, actually some people got a little freaked out.
Oh.
We even have a little music actually going on there.
So one of the reasons that spiritualism took such a strong hold was things like this, like a wake that would last 3 days and a mourning period that would last 3 years.
Right.
I mean,
it could last.
They were surrounded by death.
Right, exactly. The 3 years we were talking about when somebody died, the women and the men too, dressed in black for the most part,
mm-hmm.
and it was a year in black, and then the next year it could be like a gray outfit that the ladies wore, and then in the third year you could actually wear some jewelry.
Maybe a little bit of color.
But it's generally, I think, about 3 years for the whole process. And of course, when Queen Victoria lost Albert, she spent the rest of her life in black, and she was sort of the
matriarch of fashion.
Matriarch of fashion.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let's step into our spiritualism room so we can show our audience at home some of the things that they might have practiced.
Okay.
During that time.
Okay, this way.
So we're here in one of the most popular rooms here at the exhibit. Can you tell us a little bit about this room?
Well, we refer to this as the seance room, and we wanted to show people how we think they would have been set up if they were going to have a seance with family and members here.
Mm-hmm.
We have some of the prime things that they would be using: tarot cards, a crystal ball, and over in the back there, a Ouija board they may have been using. And also, the Fox sisters were the ones that made popular having these seances, and they were using certain things like under the table. And we have over here things that we would say these things could have been under the table, such as
little drums, rattles.
Rattles, or different things.
So these are all little tricks that mediums would use to make it look like they had actually contacted the
That's
dead.
right, that's right. And it is kind of a spooky room. And you
What
can
would this
see,
room normally be?
Well, this normally this is where the actually the butler had his room.
Oh, okay.
Because it's close to the front door,
Sure.
and so he would have to run and find out who wants to come
Call
in
the
and see
family.
the family. Right, exactly.
But it's very possible that there could have been seances performed at this house.
There could have been. I don't know why they wouldn't have, because it was a very popular thing to do.
Was it reserved only for the wealthy? Because it seems to be that the wealthy really took hold of it, so much so that it went on long enough to become a game, become a parlor game.
I would think yes. I don't think your average probably person during this period, it would be probably reserved for the people who had means to do something like this.
Pay for a medium.
In the time, well, yes, exactly.
But also, some of these things were intended for the family to be able to practice spiritualism on their own at home. Isn't that correct?
True, I think, because you could certainly get into it, I think, if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to the main room here at the exhibit.
Okay.
And then you can show us around a little bit there.
All right, we'll do. Okay.
So, can you tell us a little bit about this room here in the exhibit?
This is the main exhibit room. And what we have set up here is actually the whole room tells the entire story of spiritualism, as well as mourning and everything that goes along with it. Here we have a body that is in a sort of a burial casket, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a story about being saved by the bell. Actually, when people died, they weren't sure if they were in some sort of a coma or something, in some cases. And a few that they were, so they could be buried, or that's when the wake came into popularity, having somebody sit by the body for about 3 days to make sure that the individual was had
actually
passed away.
deceased,
yes, exactly.
and not buried alive.
And one of the things that they came up with was to put a connection to a bell, and if they woke up, hopefully they could shake
Hold
it,
the bell.
and you would, in fact, hear the bell, and then somebody was there that could, say, okay, we're not.
I don't think, and also that did happen. People were in fact buried alive, so this was not entirely impractical.
No, absolutely. And then we go on to actually in a mourning situation with Queen Victoria,
Mm-hmm.
and as you know, when Albert passed away, she was the fashion
Forebearer of wearing black.
Exactly, and she wore black for the rest of her life. And we have some samples over here of jewelry. We actually have something fantastic here. This is actually made out of human hair. And we have jewelry that would have been it's called jet jewelry. We have photographs. We have pins, all kinds of stuff. Here we feature some of the way that the individuals reacted, what they did during mourning. The ladies here didn't want to have their faces seen. The gentlemen turned their back. And then we go over here, and this is a connection with Edward. We had a pet cemetery.
A member of the household.
A member of the household, so that's a connection. And here we actually have, we're not going to show this.
We'll keep the doors shut for this one.
Anyway, this is, we have a few secrets. We're not going to give everything away today. But we have some interesting photography here, when photography was popular and they were messing around with doing sort of some crazy photography. Here are the Fox sisters. They started doing all kinds of things with spiritualism. They would like as the room we've already seen. They would put things under the table and make noises and connect to the spirits, and then they would sell their
abilities as a medium
to do this and sort of thing. And then we have some things over here, spirit writing. Actually, somebody wrote over here, "I'll be in your
room
tonight." That's kind of interesting, actually. Okay, we have a young lady here who is actually looking away, and up here we have Anna Webb, whose brother Richard died in the Civil War, and Anna is wearing mourning clothes, and also she cut her hair, something very, very special.
Something you wouldn't have seen
Right.
then.
And then we have some things, artifacts from the family, actually. These are memorial pins and things, and photographs here with a sample of the hair. Actually, that would probably be pretty good for DNA identification, if you will. Then we go over to the scientists here that were involved. Electricity was very, very important.
So it's actually interesting to think that spiritualism was taking place during the same time that science was really, budding, and it was a very popular, accepted
It really
thing.
was.
But so you had these two things side by side.
And people thought electricity, they had machines that could cure all cancer or whatever sickness or something.
Right.
It was really interesting. Most of it didn't work. We have Tesla here, a genius, and he came up with some ideas, and they didn't work. We had Edison really went after it, did a lot of work on this. The electricity, you can't see it, but it's there and it does things, and he failed basically. And we have Einstein. His theory was it's a bunch of bunk.
Well.
And over here we have ectoplasm. It's one of the things some of the mediums did to say that the spirits were causing them to. It's sort of gross to get sick and do this.
It's supposed to be the physical manifestation of the spirit. Obviously, it was gauze and things.
Exactly. And then the story about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini.
Right.
They were friends at one time, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote actually several books about spiritualism. He was really into it. Houdini was a friend, and Sir Conan Doyle decided that, or convinced Harry that this was real, but they had a seance, and it's really a long story, but they wanted to contact Houdini's mother, and they used the planchette to do spirit writing, and it was written out. He actually did contact his mother, according to this. And,
the medium.
And the medium, according to the medium. And what was written was something in the King's English. And Houdini said, "This can't be right, because my mother was born in Hungary, and she was Jewish, and she never spoke English whatsoever." And so Houdini went on a crusade to say, "Hey, this is all a bunch of magic." He said, "I can do anything that these mediums can do." And it's a great story, actually. And then we have, over here, we have some ghost hunting equipment. We do ghost tours. And this is some of the pictures that we have taken during the ghost tours. And we talk about what's happened in World War I and the Civil War, and then modern society, or not society, modern times. They went after pop occultism with the movies, the spooky movies, and the funny movies, and that sort of things. Those sort of things. And then the best thing we have here, the best thing
last,
is yes, we have a Pepper's Ghost, and we can just bring your smartphone, and we can make you look like a ghost. That's enough.
and when we come back to do our paranormal investigating, and we do our show, we'll give our audience a little peek of what Pepper's Ghost really is.
That's great.
Thank you so much for having us today, Philip. It really is fascinating.
My pleasure. I'm glad you could come out.
And we can't wait to come back and do our show on paranormal investigating.
Super. I'll be here.
And that's it.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Spotlight. I hope you enjoyed today's show on the Spiritualism exhibit at Rockwood Museum, which will be held throughout the summer and through into autumn.
On behalf of County Executive Thomas P. Gordon, I want to thank you for watching NCC TV, your source for news and information on Newcastle County, Delaware. For Tony Prado and all the NCC TV crew, I'm Melody Kitchen. Thank you again for watching. Take care.